Hello and welcome to Quiz Class. I'm your host, Ellen, and today we have 100 questions on general knowledge. This is going to be a very challenging one, so get ready. Let's see our Quiz Class awards. You can let us know how you rank in the comments at the end. What three positive numbers give the same answer when multiplied and added together? 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, or 2, 2, 2. One, two, three. Which Russian author wrote the philosophical novel The Brothers Karamazov? Dostoevsky, Ivan Turgenev, or Anton Chekhov? Fyodor Dostoevsky. Which empire was ruled by Suleiman the Magnificent at its height? Persian, Byzantine, or Ottoman? Ottoman. Which mountain range contains the highest peak outside of Asia, and what is that peak's name? Rockies, Mount Elbert, Alps, Mont Blanc, or Andes, Aconcagua? Andes, Aconcagua. In Crime and Punishment, what is the profession of the protagonist, Raskolnikov, before his moral crisis? Merchant, doctor, or former student? Former student. Which physicist's work on black-body radiation led to the birth of quantum theory? Albert Einstein, Max Planck, or Niels Bohr? Max Planck. The Peace of Westphalia ended which two major European conflicts simultaneously? 30 Years and 80 Years' War, 30 Years and War of Spain, or the 30 Years' War and the Franco-Spanish War? 30 Years' War and 80 Years' War. Which surrealist artist's work inspired the paranoid critical method? Yves Tanguy, Salvador Dali, or Max Ernst? Salvador Dali. A clock shows 3:15. What is the angle between the hour and the minute hands? 0, 15, or 7.5 degrees? 7.5 degrees. Which British monarch was the longest reigning before Queen Elizabeth II? King George III, Queen Victoria, or King Henry VIII? Queen Victoria. Which city is the only one to be located on two continents? Moscow, Cairo, or Istanbul? Istanbul. Which literary work is considered the first modern novel in Western literature? The Canterbury Tales, The Divine Comedy, or Don Quixote? Don Quixote. Which scientist first demonstrated the existence of electrons? Robert Millikan, Ernest Rutherford, or J.J. Thomson? J.J. Thomson. Which treaty ended the Napoleonic Wars and reshaped Europe in 1815? Congress of Vienna, Treaty of Versailles, or the Treaty of Tordesillas? Congress of Vienna. Which composer's work, The Planets, was inspired by astrology? Edward Elgar, Ralph Vaughan Williams, or Gustav Holst? Gustav Holst. If a bat and a ball cost $1.10 together and the bat costs $1 more than the ball, how much is the ball? 15 cents, 5 cents, or 20 cents? 5 cents. Who developed the first successful polio vaccine that did not require injection? Albert Sabin, Edward Jenner, or Louis Pasteur? Albert Sabin. Which empire was divided into East and West after the death of Theodosius I? Byzantine Empire, Holy Roman Empire, or the Roman Empire? The Roman Empire. Which artist is known for pioneering Cubism alongside George Braque? Pablo Picasso, Salvador Dali, or Marc Chagall? Pablo Picasso. Which animal can survive being frozen and thawed multiple times? Polar bear, wood frog, or Arctic fox? Wood frog. Which country has the most UNESCO World Heritage Sites? Italy, China, or Spain? Italy. Which poet wrote The Waste Land, a landmark modernist poem? Ezra Pound, W.B. Yeats, or T.S. Eliot? T.S. Eliot. Which revolution led to the creation of the first modern republic in the Americas? The Haitian Revolution, French Revolution, or American Revolution? The Haitian Revolution. Which composer is known for the 12-tone technique? Igor Stravinsky, Arnold Schoenberg, or Alban Berg? Arnold Schoenberg. Which African country completely surrounds the independent nation of Lesotho? Botswana, Zimbabwe, or South Africa? South Africa. Which 20th century author wrote the Alexandria Quartet? Graham Greene, Lawrence Durrell, or E.M. Forster? Lawrence Durrell. Which scientist's equations form the foundation of classical electromagnetism? James Clerk Maxwell, Andre Marie Ampere, or Heinrich Hertz? James Clerk Maxwell. Which Russian composer wrote the opera Boris Godunov? Sergei Prokofiev, Modest Mussorgsky, or Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov? Modest Mussorgsky. A farmer has 17 sheep and all but 9 die. How many are left? 0, 8, or 9? 9. Which actress was the first to win 3 Academy Awards for Best Actress? Meryl Streep, Ingrid Bergman, or Katharine Hepburn? Katharine Hepburn. Which city is the highest capital in the world by elevation? Thimphu, La Paz, or Kathmandu? La Paz. Which novel features the character Seth, a former slave haunted by her past? Beloved, Native Son, or Go Tell It on the Mountain? Beloved. Which element is liquid at room temperature besides mercury? Cesium, bromine, or francium? Bromine. Which treaty established the European Economic Community in 1957? The Treaty of Rome, the Treaty of Lisbon, or the Treaty of Paris? The Treaty of Rome. Which artist painted the Garden of Earthly Delights? Hieronymus Bosch, Albrecht Dürer, or Jan van Eyck? Hieronymus Bosch. If it takes 6 men 6 hours to dig 6 holes, how long does it take 1 man to dig half a hole? 6 hours? 3 hours? Impossible. Half a hole is not a hole. Impossible. Half a hole is not a hole. Who was the only British Prime Minister to win the Nobel Prize in Literature? Harold Macmillan, Winston Churchill, or Clement Attlee? Winston Churchill. Which city was the site of the signing of the Magna Carta? Runnymede, Canterbury, or Oxford? Runnymede. You see a house with all 4 sides facing south. A bear walks by. What color is the bear? Black, gray, or white? White. Which explorer completed the first solo non-stop transatlantic flight? Howard Hughes, Charles Lindbergh, or Wiley Post? Charles Lindbergh. Which Asian country was formerly known as Ceylon? Myanmar, Sri Lanka, or Cambodia? Sri Lanka. What is unusual about the following sentence? The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. It's a palindrome, it's a riddle, or it uses all of the alphabet? It uses all of the alphabet. Which Nobel laureate wrote the novel Blindness, later adapted into a film? Jose Saramago, Orhan Pamuk, or Albert Camus? Jose Saramago. Which element is the only metal that is liquid at room temperature and non-toxic in small amounts? Cesium, francium, or gallium? Gallium. Which city was the capital of the Byzantine Empire after the fall of Constantinople? Athens, Mistra, or Trebizond? Mistra. Which 20th century composer created the 12-tone tone row technique? Bela Bartok, Arnold Schoenberg, or Sergei Prokofiev? Arnold Schoenberg. Which physicist was known as the father of the hydrogen bomb? Edward Teller, Enrico Fermi, or Niels Bohr? Edward Teller. Which is the only mammal capable of sustained flight? The bat, the sugar glider, or the colugo? The bat. Which African lake has the largest volume of water? Lake Malawi, Lake Tanganyika, or Lake Chad? Lake Tanganyika. Which novel is set in the fictional town of Macondo? 100 Years of Solitude, Pedro Paramo, or The House of the Spirits? 100 Years of Solitude. Who first proposed the heliocentric model of the solar system in the Renaissance? Johannes Kepler, Nicholas Copernicus, or Tycho Brahe? Nicholas Copernicus. Which dynasty ruled China immediately before the Qing? Yuan, Tang, or Ming? Ming. Which artist's black square is considered a milestone of abstract art? P.A. Mondrian, Kazimir Malevich, or Paul Klee? Kazimir Malevich. Which mathematician's work on uncomputable numbers laid the foundation for computer science? Alan Turing, Kurt Gödel, or Alonzo Church? Alan Turing. Which river is the world's longest to flow entirely within one country? The Mississippi, the Nile, or the Yangtze? The Yangtze. Which poet wrote the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock? Wallace Stevens, T.S. Eliot, or W.B. Yeats? T.S. Eliot. Which vitamin is also known as cobalamin? Vitamin B12, vitamin C, or vitamin B2? Vitamin B12. Which architect designed the Fallingwater House in Pennsylvania? Walter Gropius, Le Corbusier, or Frank Lloyd Wright? Frank Lloyd Wright. A palindrome reads the same forward and backward. Which of these is a palindrome? Radar, reader, or redder? Radar. Which European capital is located at the highest altitude? Vienna, Madrid, or Bern? Madrid. Which novel features the character Leopold Bloom? Mrs. Dalloway, The Wasteland, or Ulysses? Ulysses. Which city was the first to be bombed with an atomic bomb? Nagasaki, Hiroshima, or Tokyo? Hiroshima. Which country is home to the world's northernmost capital city? Iceland, Finland, or Sweden? Iceland. Which novel is considered the first Gothic novel in English literature? Frankenstein, Dracula, or The Castle of Otranto? The Castle of Otranto. Which battle marked the end of the Byzantine Empire? The Battle of Ankara, the fall of Constantinople, or the Battle of Lepanto? The fall of Constantinople. Which painter is known for the Water Lilies series? Edgar Degas, Paul Cézanne, or Claude Monet? Claude Monet. Who was the first woman to win the Nobel Prize in Literature? Selma Lagerlöf, Toni Morrison, or Gabriela Mistral? Selma Lagerlöf. Which planet has a day longer than its year? Jupiter, Venus, or Mars? Venus. Which river forms the border between the U.S. states of Oregon and Washington? The Columbia River, Colorado River, or Missouri River? The Columbia River. Which 19th century Russian author wrote Dead Souls? Leo Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, or Nikolai Gogol? Nikolai Gogol. Which scientist developed the laws of planetary motion? Johannes Kepler, Galileo Galilei, or Tycho Brahe? Johannes Kepler. Who was the first emperor of the Holy Roman Empire? Frederick Barbarossa, Charlemagne, or Charles V? Charlemagne. A man is twice as old as his son. 20 years ago, he was 3 times as old. How old is the son? 40, 30, or 60? "40. Which physicist is known for the uncertainty principle? Max Planck, Erwin Schrödinger, or Werner Heisenberg? Werner Heisenberg. What is the smallest independent country in the world by area? Vatican City, San Marino, or Liechtenstein? Vatican City. Which physicist is credited with the discovery of the electron? James Chadwick, Robert Millikan, or J.J. Thomson? J.J. Thomson. Which treaty ended the War of the Spanish Succession? Treaty of Paris, Treaty of Utrecht, or the Treaty of Westphalia? Treaty of Utrecht. Which artist painted The Persistence of Memory? Salvador Dali, René Magritte, or Paul Klee? Salvador Dali. How many times do the hands of a clock overlap in a 12-hour period? 12, 10, or 11? "11. Which animal's fingerprints are virtually indistinguishable from humans? Gorilla, koala, or orangutan? Koala. Which scientist discovered radio waves? Heinrich Hertz, Guglielmo Marconi, or James Clerk Maxwell? Heinrich Hertz. Who was the last pharaoh of ancient Egypt? Tutankhamun, Cleopatra VII, or Ptolemy XIII? Cleopatra VII. Who composed the ballet Swan Lake? Tchaikovsky, Stravinsky, or Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov? Tchaikovsky. If you write all the numbers from 1 to 100, how many times do you write the digit 9? 11, 19, or 20? 20. Which country administers the remote island of Tristan da Cunha? The United Kingdom, South Africa, or Portugal? The United Kingdom. Which scientist first isolated oxygen, although credit is often given to Joseph Priestley? Antoine Lavoisier, Robert Hooke, or Carl Wilhelm Scheele? Carl Wilhelm Scheele. Which treaty ended the Russo-Japanese War in 1905? The Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, the Treaty of San Francisco, or the Treaty of Portsmouth? The Treaty of Portsmouth. Which Dutch artist painted View of Delft and was known for his use of light? Rembrandt, Johannes Vermeer, or Frans Hals? Johannes Vermeer. Which mathematician proved the last theorem that eluded proof for over 350 years? Pierre de Fermat, John Nash, or Andrew Wiles? Andrew Wiles. Which animal can sleep for up to 3 years at a time? Tortoise, bear, or snail? The snail. Which city is known as the Venice of the North? Amsterdam, St. Petersburg, or Stockholm? St. Petersburg. Which epic poem begins, "Sing, O goddess, the anger of Achilles"? The Aeneid, Metamorphosis, or the Iliad? The Iliad. Which battle ended the Persian invasions of Greece in 479 BCE? Thermopylae, Plataea, or Salamis? Plataea. Which composer wrote the opera Bluebird's Castle? Mussorgsky, Richard Strauss, or Bela Bartok? Bela Bartok. Which desert is the driest non-polar desert on Earth? Atacama, Kalahari, or the Arabian Desert? Atacama. Which Shakespeare play is set in Messina, Sicily? Othello, Twelfth Night, or Much Ado About Nothing? Much Ado About Nothing. Which element was the first to be artificially produced? Plutonium, francium, or technetium? Technetium. Technetium. Which king signed the Edict of Nantes granting religious freedom to Huguenots? Charles IX, Francis I, or Henry IV? Henry IV. Which painter is associated with the drip technique in abstract expressionism? Willem de Kooning, Mark Rothko, or Jackson Pollock? Jackson Pollock. A word I know, 6 letters it contains, remove 1 letter and 12 remains. What is it? Letter, dozens, or 12? Dozens. Bonus question, which scientist is credited with the discovery of insulin? Let us know the answer in the comments. And of course, don't forget to tell us how you ranked with our quiz class Einstein rewards. Thanks for playing and see you in our next one. Bye-bye.